But I want to just say that I'm really happy to be here, and I think it's certainly an important occasion, for us to kind of be gathered here and just discussing some of the things that we're talking about here. I think that it's really important. June 1st will be a year since I've been home. I spent 28 years in prison, and 20 of them was actually on Tennessee's death row for a crime that I ain't committing. Like I said, I just came home June 1st of last year, so it's not quite a year yet. Although I've been certainly enjoying a whole lot of freedom, and it seems like a little longer than a year actually. So, but my story basically is that I'm originally not even from Tennessee. I was actually born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and until I was actually brought down here and put on trial, and I like to say now that I'm an unwilling transplant, but until I was actually brought down here and put on trial in the city of Memphis, I had never even been in the state of Tennessee, and certainly I hadn't been in Memphis committing no robbery murder, which is what I was actually charged and convicted of and ultimately sentenced to death for. So, I spent 20 years on death row. I actually got off of death row in 2004, and it actually took another 8 years before I actually came home last year, June 1st, like I said. I don't know that, I guess I can kind of give some little brief background into my situation. I actually went to trial in Memphis in 1985 for a murder that happened in 1983. October 1983, I stood trial some 2 years later in December of 1985. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Memphis, but at the time, I think the black population down there was probably about 54, nearly 55% majority in the city down there. But I was actually put on trial and convicted by an all-white jury. And I was a young black man at the time being accused of killing a white person. So I think that, that in and of itself kind of speaks volumes about how I actually ended up in the situation that I actually did, because, at that point, the authorities down there had, wanted to solve the case, and there was nothing that I can actually do at that point, because they pulled every possible trick that they actually could to actually convict me. In fact, they fabricated evidence of my guilt and hid and withheld evidence of my innocence. When they was in court, actually, they was in court claiming to have evidence against me. They was actually withholding a report showing that the evidence didn't match what they was actually talking about in court. But it didn't take me, it took me some about 10 or 12 years before we actually was able to, through a court procedure, was actually able to get the files that the prosecutors and the police had actually had. And what happened was that, like I said, I went to trial, and I should add first off that I'm actually here despite the system, not because the system actually worked. Everything that possibly could have went wrong in a criminal trial went wrong in my trial. Like I said, well, the evidence that they had, the evidence that they actually used against me was that they had an eyewitness that said that actually witnessed the crime. He said that he actually seen the person that perpetrated the crime for about 2 seconds or so. He actually said he seen his face. So when he came in court, he actually he testified that he thought I looked like the person, but he wasn't 100% sure that I was actually the person that actually committed the crime. And what happened was that, and this was out of, I think they had 15 or 18 witnesses that witnessed this crime or was present when the crime actually happened. But what happened was that this one particular witness that they used against me as an identification witness that supposedly put me on the scene was that he testified about, like I said, that he thought that he wasn't 100% sure I was the person. He thought I was the person, and he thought I was the person based on the nose and the chin area of my face. That he said that he thought I was the actual person. But what happened was that once he got through testifying, the way the lawyers here in Tennessee before a witness actually testified in the criminal trial, the defendant, me at the time, I didn't have access to the previous statement that he had, initial statement that he had actually given the police minutes after the crime. So after he testified and went back to work, he went back to work, and my lawyers was actually able to get the statement that he had initially gave the police just minutes after the crime. And based on the description that he had gave, my lawyer actually called him back to court. And so they went back out and picked him up on his job and actually brought him back out to court to testify. And ultimately what he said was that, under cross-examination from my attorney, was that the police and the prosecutors had showed him several pictures of nobody but me and told him that I was the person that actually committed the crime. And basically this is how he was identifying me, based on them showing him these several pictures of nobody but me and telling him I was the person that actually committed the crime. And so, but based on this, you would think that that would be enough evidence for a jury to say that, well, at the very least, that, this may be reasonable doubt that we should maybe sentence this person to death, but that didn't have no effect on it. And the other evidence that they used against me was that they claimed to have had a partial prime print of mine that was taken off the car that was actually used in the crime. But while they was testifying to this in court, they withheld the reports showing that they had checked my prints and my prints didn't match none of the prints that was actually taken on the car. And they also withheld the report showing that what they had claimed that they had took my print off the car, no print was ever taken off the car. So, no print was ever taken from that part of the car. And the other evidence that they used against me was that they had this acquaintance that I knew at the time. She actually came in and testified that I had told her that I committed this crime, and basically what she was doing, she was actually trying to get out of some criminal charges herself. So she came in court and lied on me and, said that I confessed to her that I had actually committed the crime, which I hadn't, because I hadn't committed the crime. And so, and the other evidence was that they had a witness said that I was in Memphis the day before the crime and the day of the crime, that, which was totally false as well, too. So, but what the prosecutors was also withholding was that, first off, they brought in another witness that witnessed the crime. And this witness came in, and when the prosecutor asked him, did he see the person in court that had actually committed the crime, he said no. So, like I said, just based on just flimsy evidence and just these two facts that, where the witness, the only eyewitness said that the police basically told him I was the person after showing him several pictures of me, and also bringing in this other witness that witnessed the crime and said that I wasn't the person that committed the crime. Like I said, you would think that this would be enough evidence actually to, at the very least, spare me the death penalty. But that didn't happen. Like I said, it took I spent, like I said, 20 years on death row before, and what actually got me released from death row was that, or got my sentence reversed and reduced to a life sentence, was that the police and prosecutors also too, when they was presenting evidence against me in court, they was actually the way the death penalty is, that they got these aggravating circumstances that elevate a case, and make it death eligible. And so in my case, that they claimed that not only did I shoot and kill the victim, but I had, put two or more people in danger outside the victim, which is an aggravating circumstance that elevated my case and made it death eligible. But what actually led to my sentence being overturned was that the evidence that they presented in court was totally false in terms of how the crime had actually happened. They would tell the report showing that the person that actually killed the victim, it was impossible for them to actually shoot this person in the store. Was a security guard or something in the store, and so it was some other shots fired in another part of the store. And so basically, like I said, they would tell this report showing that it was virtually impossible for the person that actually killed the victim to have did this other stuff that they claimed that I was doing in courts. So that's what, once we was able to establish that they had fabricated that part of the evidence as well too, that the court actually reversed my sentence. And I certainly felt at the time that they should have reversed my conviction at the time as well too, but they chose just to reverse my reverse my sentence. And so I said, I think that was actually in 1998 that they actually reversed my sentence, and I physically sit on death row for another 6 years before the state just decided that they would not seek the death penalty against me again, and which automatically meant that I would get a life sentence. And so, and this basically, that was, this kind of my case in a nutshell. I certainly can't. My case is so complicated. When my lawyers used to come in court, they would have boxes of stuff. So I don't know how much you guys know about the system, but over 28 years, there was a lot of paperwork certainly generated, and like I said, I just tried to give you this brief overlook in a nutshell, but it's really a complicated case in terms of. And I certainly can, try to explain it here in the few minutes that I actually have to do it. I will say that if you guys have any questions, I certainly don't mind answering. But before I do that, I would actually just kind of pick up on why I'm actually here. Preston actually invited me here. We went out to the prison with a group of people. We went out there and just kind of had this, just kind of whole, I would say like a think tank, where we were just trying to think about how the church can actually better serve people in prison while they're in prison, but also too coming out of prison. Like I said, I spent 28 years in prison, and I certainly seen a lot of people coming in saying they was Christians. I'm sure many of them were Christians, but I think that some of what I seen certainly, kind of turned me off in terms of, how people would actually come in. I think that a lot of time, even though, I think the Bible talk about visiting prisoners and, reaching out to the least among us. But a lot of time, I think that what happens is that you have people coming in thinking that, you need to come in and save my soul or, bring me salvation, as opposed to, maybe just coming in and really seeing what it is that I really need in terms of just trying to, just trying to survive the system, for instance. I think that a lot of times, like I said, people would come in and would, kind of with this paternalistic, attitude toward prisoners that, that a lot of us, kind of needed our soul saved, as opposed to, like I said, just coming in and trying to, just trying to affirm people's humanity by simply being present. I think that a lot of time what happens is that, when people sitting in prison, and most people in prison don't get visits. Most people don't get visits in prison. I think that, fortunately, I think that what happens is that, there's an old saying, you guys probably heard it, out of sight, out of mind. But I think that what happens is that, it's so easy for us to, get kind of wrapped up in our everyday life and certainly the demands in our life and where we, even forget about our loved ones. I think that, if we don't take every opportunity to be, just kind of vigilant about staying connected, you easily just kind of slip away. And like I said, most people sitting in prison, they don't get visits. And so it's really important that I think that, especially and particularly from the, just a religious community, that the church is present in ways that it really makes a difference. I think that I often would say say a lot was that, if we had, people coming out of prison, for instance, if they had, if the church just adopted one or two people coming out of prison, that in and of itself would prevent, I'm sure, most people from ending up back in prison. Because when people come out of prison, most of the time, like I said, that when people come out of prison, whatever safety net that they actually had, or even family structure, or whatever they had prior to actually going in, if it's not available when they come out, then people coming out of prison certainly feeling the pressures of life, having to have a job, place to stay, just people around them. Sometimes people have that, but don't have people that they can actually talk to. When they're thinking about doing something that may land them back in prison. Just having mentors or people that I like to say accountability partners, people that are they're certainly going to hold people accountable for their actions when they're thinking or even their thoughts. Because I think that obviously our actions, for the most part, stem from our thoughts. It's a thought first. And, a lot of time when you have people that, that probably not used to using their minds in the first place, because I think that in some ways that may be an indication why people end up in prison, because of, not really critically thinking about some of the actions. But when you have people that's not used to doing that anyway, and when you land them in prison and you're dealing in a prison system that certainly is not trying to teach critical thinking or trying to give every opportunity for people to correct themselves or rehabilitate themselves or habilitate themselves, however you want to look at it, that if people don't have that opportunity, then when they come out, then most people go back to what feels familiar to them, what feels comfortable. And if, like I said, that if you have, and by the way, probably 95 or 98% of people sitting in prison coming home. And so I think it's really important that we really have to think and ask ourselves, how do we want people coming home? I think that, we can, just kind of sit back and, think that, it don't really matter to us. Because they ain't coming to my neighborhood, or they ain't coming where I'm at. That I think that's probably one of the mistakes that help lead to the proliferation of this whole prison industrial complex. That people kind of see it as something separate from their lives, as opposed to all of us kind of being connected in the way that we actually are. And so I think that, like I said, we went out to the prison. I thought we had certainly some good sessions out there in terms of just listening to the guys out there and trying to think through and think about some of the ways that that the church can get involved in. I think that, from my perspective, I can't say it enough. I think that presence in and of itself is certainly a good thing. But I think on top of that, it's really about listening and just trying to see and meet people where they are and understand people from sitting where they sitting. And I think that from there, everything else is kind of organically evolves into whatever needs to happen. Like I said, I don't know if you guys have any questions or if it was something else pressing you think I should have been talking about, but I certainly don't mind, answering any questions if you guys have any.
Would you talk for a minute about the work you're doing now?
Oh yeah, I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that. If you guys that don't know, that's Reverend Janet Wolf back there, and that's actually my supervisor. But yeah, I'm working for the Children's Defense Fund, and part of what we've been tasked to deal with is trying to confront this whole prison industrial complex. In fact, the Children's Defense Fund, CDF, actually gave us the privilege to create this whole kind of new ideal and just kind of new approach here in Nashville. And I'm actually part of this Nashville team with Janet Wolf and Eric Brown, Damian Darren, Shaquille, Sherry Donaldson. And basically what we've been tasked to deal with is these zero tolerance policies that's being used in schools to push children out of school into the criminal justice system, because ultimately that's what actually happens. And I think that rightfully so, the Children's Defense Fund actually see these zero tolerance policies as the entry point for a lot of young people ending up in the system. And so we actually been tasked with just trying to figure out ways to engage people and get people involved and just educate people first and foremost, and get educated ourselves and about from people that's directly dealing with it, but also to just trying to engage people, like I said, in dialogue, because I think it's when we begin to talk about and discuss the issues that we then begin to think about solutions and ways to actually deal with it, and hopefully, in our case, disrupt and dismantle this whole system that's, sitting up. We was out at the Correction Corporation of America when they was holding their 30th anniversary the other day. We was out there protesting against them because, when you have companies like this, they're sitting up projecting their future profits on children that's in the second and third grade. I think that all of us can agree that this is something devilish. You can't. If you can actually identify a child, at that age, and you know that you're gonna need a prison bridge for them 8 or 10 years out, that you also too know the problems that's gonna actually prevent them from actually ending up there. Because you can't know that problem without knowing that, okay, the issue is that, okay, he can't read, or whatever the case is, whatever it is that they measuring, why they need to build this prison bed space for this kid 8 or 10 years out. That I'm saying that the same information would allow for them to actually correct the child, and it would certainly be cheaper. Because I think that if you take a child that's in the juvenile system, I think it was a 60, I'm sure well over $60,000 to actually house the child for a year. And so I'm saying that you can certainly get a tutor on the front end for cheaper than that, and make sure that whatever issues that he or she is actually having, that 8 to 10 years they would actually be on a college compound as opposed to a prison compound. But I think that and that would only make sense though if you don't see this context that people actually are sitting up. They whole profit margins depend on bodies. if you don't see it in the context of that, then it don't make sense. But if you look at it in the context that we're dealing with a system that actually needs bodies, then it makes sense why they would not want to get this child a tutor, that they would actually want him to land in a prison cell. So, but yeah, that's basically what we've been doing, dealing with in terms of the Children's Defense Fund. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's an organization that's been around for 40 years.
And Ndume, in the Children's Defense Fund, I could see, I've worked in middle and high schools, and I hope that they would use you as a person who could possibly mentor to some of the young men in trouble or potential trouble in middle and high school. I can see you doing a good work there.
Hey, thanks. In fact, I've been speaking at speaking to young high school students as part of the work that we're doing there. So yeah, and I'm actually also too one of the things that while I was in prison, actually, while I was on death row, actually, first off, I was one of the people that I ain't having a high school diploma when I went to prison, but I got a GED while I was sitting on death row, when most people sitting on death row probably ain't thinking about a GED, but I knew that I knew the importance of education, but also too, I wanted to certainly be able to, when I'm telling a young person why they should stay in school, that I was leading by example myself. So I got a GED while I was actually sitting on death row. But one of the things that also too, while I was sitting on death row, I actually taught myself how to paint. And so one of the things that I'm in the process of doing is just trying to engage young people, in art, and just try to hopefully through art, educate them about the perils of this system that's betting against them. I mean, it's like I say, it's really unfortunate that everybody don't see our children as our greatest possession. I think the children is our greatest possession, and they are our future. But when you got people that are sitting up, like I say, betting against them, wanting them in a prison cell, I certainly, can say some really harsh things, but I just say I think it's some devilish stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
I've probably seen too many Hollywood movies and don't have the right impression of this, but I get the impression from what I see and read that they're very dangerous places. I mean, they're filled with gangs and there's crime that goes on. How do you get rehabilitated, and how do you avoid becoming part of that? How do you get rehabilitated when you're in that kind of? Is it true that environment exists? Well,
yeah, I think that prison is a dangerous environment. I think that when you take people and put them in 8x10 cell, total strangers. And you just throw people in the cell together. I mean, if you got brothers and sisters, you argue sometime with your brothers and sisters. And so, but when you take people and put them in a prison environment, that's really unnatural. But even, and certainly I'm not a person that's saying that, prisons may have some usefulness, but the reality is that I think that the way the prison system is set up, I think it does foster this environment, where it makes it hard for, say, a young person to come in, or anybody for that matter, to come in and do what they need to do to be trying to either, rehabilitate themselves or habilitate themselves. But I think that more than just gangs and just the violence or whatever that goes on in prison, I think that if we was dealing with a prison system that fostered people coming in and making, having every opportunity to leave out better than they came in, then all this other stuff wouldn't matter. And it wouldn't matter. But like I said, if you look at it in the context, though, that the system, the way it's set up, it's big business, and the only way it operates is with bodies. So, what may look chaotic for some people outside of that environment, or even within that environment, for other people, it's actually order, because it's happening just like they want it to happen. That 7 out of 10 people getting out of prison, recidivating back into the system. So like I say, that from that standpoint, it makes sense. I think that all of us can agree that if you had a company with that type of failure rate, they would be out of business. But in this case, the flip side of that is true. 7 out of, and I think that I think that that's part of what the religious community has to come to reconcile with as well too, in terms of just kind of being silent on this issue of the immorality of this whole system. I think that, like I said, that when you have the number of people coming out of prison and ending back up in prison, that it's kind of this moral failure, really. When we just kind of sit quietly by and don't challenge people on that. And I'm saying even from a taxpayer's standpoint, you should demand more. We have to demand more in terms of how money is spent. I think that, like I said, here in this state it costs about $30,000 to house a person, an adult, in prison a year. I've seen people. This is how crazy the system is. I've actually seen people get out of prison on parole, out working a job, and and get some minor violation. Not that they got a new criminal charge, but they got some minor violation, and that they was actually sent back into the prison system to spend another 2 years. This was a person that was out contributing to the tax base, taking care of their family, and and just being a positive person, but for some minor violation that probably could have been easily taken care of by simply saying that, even if you're saying that you want the person to, you want to remind them about what being locked up feels like, you could say that, okay, on the weekend you need to come down here and check into the local jail. But we ain't finna spend no $30,000 to house you because you didn't tell your parole officer that you moved. So you're gonna spend $60,000 to house this person for 2 years when he was paying his taxes because he was working, paying a parole fee, and whatever else he was actually paying. But from their standpoint, the system standpoint, it makes sense that they would actually bring them back. And so it don't make no sense to me, but from the system standpoint, it makes sense that you would bring somebody back like that.
Does anybody have one more question for Ndume? Thank you. Thank you so much.